All right, so just 1 second, and it's loading up to Facebook. So we'll be live on Facebook and on Zoom.
And are you recording?
And yes, thank you. Let's record. Okay, record. Great. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us on Facebook or Zoom. If you can hear me on Facebook or if you can see us, please let us know that you are there and where you are joining us from. I am Dr. Erica Vonderleith. I am a chiropractor and a functional health practitioner. I have a practice in Park Ridge, and I also have a virtual practice. And I love helping women release really stubborn weight that's caused by hidden stressors and hormonal imbalances. And so I'm so excited to be talking to the infamous Chaya Spencer today from Shree Yoga in Saddle River. We're going to be talking about the stress response and how to really interrupt that stress response. So thank you so much for joining me. And let me have you tell us about yourself and your journey and your practice and kind of what we're going to be talking about today, Chaya. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. My name's Chaya Spencer, and I am the founder and owner of Shree Yoga, which is a lovely small yoga studio in Saddle River, New Jersey. I began my yoga journey when I was a child, following my mother around, or rather being dragged around by my mother to different yoga communities and different groups. And so it's really been part of my life for the majority of my life. What's going to be our topic tonight is understanding the stress loop, how it occurs, the different physiological aspects of that loop, and how to break the stress loop. Different things that you can do, that we can all do, to naturally bring us back into a state of homeostasis, a balance of equilibrium and relaxation, which at this time, which is so nuts with the pandemic and the election only 2 weeks away, I think I know I really need it, and I imagine you might also.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for joining us tonight too, because I know we have a debate coming up tonight. So thank you for your time tonight. So before we dive deeper into that discussion, I do these presentations on the chronic stress response quite often, and the ways in which we can break this. I always talk about yoga, relaxation, meditations, and ways that we can break this. So I have like a 30-minute meditation that I'm just going to quickly kind of run through. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Let me know if you can see that. Just to kind of give us an idea about kind of what we're experiencing, why it's so important to have these resources to interrupt this stress loop. So can you see my screen all right?
Yeah.
All right, so I really focus on being healthy, addressing these three body systems. So mainly today, we're really going to talk about these hormone balances. So that stress hormone cortisol and how that cortisol really starts affecting us. So we have these three main initiators of illness. We have emotional stress that we're really going to be talking about today, but we also have dietary stress, so blood sugar spikes and dips, and we have hidden stressors, pain and inflammation. And what we're experiencing so much in today's society are these emotional stressors, right? Especially these past 6 months. So a lot of fear, unknown, anxiety, anger, frustration, worry, and then, what's going on with our jobs, our work, and, the kids are home, financial issues. So there's so many things going on that are affecting us emotionally. And they start affecting the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands put out a lot of hormones and brain neurotransmitters and other chemicals that are affected by how we perceive and how we deal with stress. And so it's going to affect all of these body systems, our musculoskeletal system, our brain, our metabolic system, so our thyroid hormones, our sex hormones, how we metabolize fat, proteins, carbohydrates, how we detoxify, and how we deal with pain and inflammation. And what the heck does that mean? So cortisol and the stress response is normal. Like if we had to run away from a lion, right? We have these normal processes in place that are good, but cortisol in excess, and what we have now is this chronic stress overload that we really, really need to break. So in excess, this response causes an increase in blood sugar. So a sustained elevation in blood sugar. It stimulates fat deposition. It increases glucose or blood sugar utilization by the CNS, the brain, and which is good, right? So you need to think quickly, you need to run away from that lion. But over time, it can contribute to brain fog and memory problems. And you might be experiencing these types of symptoms. Some insulin resistance. It will slow down digestion, and it will affect our sex hormones, effects and production. It can contribute to bone loss, osteoporosis, osteopenia, and it can contribute to high blood pressure, which a lot of us has heard about, right? Stress can contribute to high blood pressure. But it can also affect immune function and alter thyroid function. So all of these things are affected by our continued elevated, sustained stress response. And it's not like you go to the doctor and say, I have these hormonal problems. We end up going to the doctor with these symptoms of weight gain, fatigue, depression, anxiety, gastrointestinal problems. And this is why it's so important to address these and have a more natural approach to help manage stress. And, there are, obviously, when you go to the medical doctors, there are tests that they run, but a lot of times people come back and all their tests were normal, but they know that they just don't feel well. And so in terms of what I do in my practice, I really look for root causes of these symptoms and how to really try to manage those symptoms by managing the underlying root cause. So in a nutshell, that's kind of my more natural, functional, holistic approach. And let me just stop sharing my screen. And that's why it's so important that we have resources like what Chaya is going to be sharing with us today, what we're going to be talking about today, to really help manage this chronic stress response. So I hope that makes sense to everybody, and I hope that helps you understand why it's so important that we're talking about this today.
Yeah, super helpful. And the slides are really great because they really give us the visual of what's going on and how stress over a long period of time can be so detrimental. So before I get into things that we can do to reverse or break the stress cycle, I found it really helpful myself, being a high anxiety person, to better understand kind of the nervous system and the ways in which the nervous system is affected by how we breathe and what we do, because that then goes on to affect all the things that Erica just spoke about. So the autonomic nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system that unconsciously, because we're not conscious of it, they're automatic things, controls bodily functions, including things like heart rate, digestion, breathing. It responds to environmental demands by either catalyzing the mind-body system in response to a threat or maintaining homeostasis and balance, during which rest, repair, and growth are possible. And so it's divided into two separate systems. One is the sympathetic nervous system, and the other is the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, you would think that the sympathetic nervous system was sympathetic and that was going to be helpful, but it's actually the stress response. So the sympathetic nervous system is like the gas pedal. And when an organism perceives a threat, whether it's a threat of an election, or it's someone cutting you off in traffic, or it's a lion, or it's a family member coming to you angry, or it's a boss asking something of you, any kind of a threat, the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system turns on, releases cortisol and other hormones and stressors into the bloodstream so that we are ready to fight or flee. The other side of that, the parasympathetic nervous system, does the opposite. So it's like the brake pedal. The sympathetic nervous system is the gas pedal, the parasympathetic is the brake pedal. And it works to counterbalance the sympathetic nervous system by initiating the relaxation response. So it slows your heart rate, it lowers your blood pressure, it gives you time to digest, it allows your body to relax and to be soothed, to be nourished, to be healed. It's kind of the feeling you get after you have a really good massage, or maybe you've had a really good meal and it was really big and you feel a little sleepy, or maybe someone you trust and love is holding you and your whole body just goes, okay, I can just relax and enjoy this. So those are the two branches of the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic.
Can I just chime in? Let me just chime in 1 second. You can't have both of those going on at the same time. It's either parasympathetic or sympathetic. So I just wanted to say that.
Great. Yes. And although the sympathetic nervous system takes only seconds to activate, you see the lion and everything jumps into your body. You're ready to probably flee, unless you're a real Amazon, then you're going to fight. That takes seconds, but to reverse it and to go back into a parasympathetic state can take hours. And for some of us, it rarely happens because of the stressors of normal everyday life are so persistent and so constant. Even going onto social media can trigger little stresses. Did somebody like my post? What is that person saying? These little stressors put us into a state of sympathetic nervous system anxiety and stress, which is what Erica was talking about, that because we end up living in that state for so long, it's really hard to flip the switch, to put on the brake and to shift back and down into the parasympathetic. Now, in the parasympathetic nervous system, there is a key player called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, and it's the longest brain nerve in the body. And it connects to all of the vital organs. So it goes through your face, it connects into your lungs, it connects into your heart, it connects into your digestion. And it's constantly monitoring your level of stress. And it's either depressed and your sympathetic nervous system is active, or it's active and your parasympathetic nervous system is in play and you're relaxed. The vagus nerve means the wanderer because it wanders all through these different parts of our bodies, most of which are part of the autonomic nervous system, parts that we don't have control over. We can't slow our heart rates. We can't stop our digestion. We can't do many different things with these autonomic functions of our bodies. Some of the metaphors that help us to understand the importance of the vagus nerve are that it's the super highway of your body, transporting vital information between your brain and the rest of your internal organs and vice versa. It's a symphony conductor directing how fast, how slow, how low, loud, or how quietly your nervous system will be at any given moment. So it's this major connector, and it listens to your body and it sends information to your brain, and it listens to your brain and sends information from your brain to your body. So when we talk about the mind-body connection or the gut-brain connection, it's through this vagus nerve, this nerve that's telling the body and the brain what each other are feeling and experiencing, which then triggers the same, how we're feeling and what we're thinking about how we're feeling. Vagal tone, so vagus nerve, vagal tone refers to the variability between your heart rate on your inhale and your exhale. So this was brand new news to me, that my heart beats faster when I breathe in and slower when I breathe out. Did you know that?
Are you asking me that?
I'm asking everybody that.
Oh, I did. I had everyone muted. So
yeah, that's okay. So it was just like, what? Like, I know my heart rate beats faster. Sometimes it beats slower sometimes, but that on every inhale, it's beating a little faster, and every exhale, it's beating a little slower. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that's why you focus on so much on the breathing, right? When you do your,
Yeah. So that's why we focus on breathing when we do yoga. So vagal tone is the variability between how fast your heart rate beats when you breathe in and when you breathe out. So it's the difference. And ideally, there should be a big difference. So as you breathe in, your body knows, okay, this is, my moving forward, my getting ready. And when you breathe out, okay, I'm just relaxing and settling back. But when we end up in this constantly stressed state, it stays pretty active, and there's very much less variability in the heart rate between the inhale and the exhale. So this brings me to the stress loop. And I gave you all of that background. I hope it wasn't too much. To understand the stress loop. So the stress loop is something happens. Lion, spouse, work, and we feel stressed. The mind recognizes that there is some threat, some stress. The vagus nerve recognizes that, and it says, okay, a stressful situation. We need to get ready to protect ourselves. Cortisol, adrenaline, all these kinds of stress hormones get dumped into the blood. So we're ready to deal with whatever the threat is. The brain gets a message to the vagus nerve that all these organs are firing up, getting ready for some threat. And it goes, oh, wow, this threat is real. The body is letting me know, the brain, that this threat is real. Okay, I better get on board and put even more stress hormones into the bloodstream so that I'm supporting the body to deal with this threat. The body gets more stress hormones dumped in and gets more revved up and sends another signal back to the brain. Wow, things are really getting bad here. Let's get on board together and get ready for this next attack, whatever it is. And so although it might just be that somebody didn't like your Facebook post, it might just be the smallest little thing, your whole body and your brain are looping and supporting each other in staying stressed.
Right.
What would you add?
And let me just add right there, right? It's either real or perceived stress. And you're just talking about right now that emotional stress. And at the beginning, I was talking about, we still have the dietary stress, right? The increases and dips in our blood sugar and those hidden stressors, pain, chronic pain, if you have joint pain, or if you have what I call hidden stressors, are hidden things in pathogens inside your gut that you don't even know about, because a lot of the mainstream medical doctors aren't even testing for that. A hidden parasite, viruses, bacteria, yeast overgrowth that, is still causing this stressor in your body. I always tell people you could be relaxing on a beach in Hawaii, but if you have these stressors still going on inside you, either here or here, your body's still going through that stress loop, that stress response.
It's so nice to have these two perspectives, right? The doctor chiropractor perspective and the yoga teacher perspective, because they really make a full whole of what happens to us and why we stay so stressed, and then how that stress impacts us. As you said, Erica, at the beginning with your slides, all of those different physiological symptoms that people go to the doctor for. And on an emotional level, just the high level of stress that we all live with day in and day out, where I can sit down sometimes to meditate and I will feel stress in my body. Just this low level stress. And now I have ways to work with it, to manage it. But it was really helpful to understand all of this background so I could understand why I was feeling this way. And it's not that there's something wrong with me. It's just the state of the world and the state of our lives in this area of the world invite this chronic stress. And the pathogens and the foods we eat, everything that you said, Erica, all of these things contribute. And so there's just, if you stop and you feel how your body is feeling, if you get really quiet and really still, you may be able to feel this low level stress. I feel it in my shoulders. I feel it in my belly. I can feel it going down my arms. So it's a very concrete, real thing that's happening on so many ways.
So a big part of that is being in the present moment and being mindful, right? Because we're so busy that you don't even stop to realize this kind of a feeling. So to really be, in tune with your body. And like I said, sometimes you don't even realize it. Like sometimes I use a heart rate variability monitor by HeartMath that really helps, okay, this is really helping me. And let me do this more often because this is really helping to, calm my nervous system, because a lot of you can't get rid of this stress. So we have to find these ways to manage it, right? You can't get rid of a lot of the stuff that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so tools to manage it and how to break out of this loop. So to break out of the loop, we want to stimulate the vagus nerve and stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. It's the brake pedal on the car of life that is going pell-mell down the highway. So we can do that one of two ways. One is we convince the brain that whatever the stress is that is making us feel the way we feel is no longer so. The lion catchers came and they removed the lion. The lion is no longer a threat. Or we work with the body to calm it and to soothe it, so that that sends a message to the brain to let the brain know it can stop dumping all of those stress hormones into the bloodstream because the threat is finished. So, because most of the organs that the vagus nerve connects to and that the parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system work with in the autonomic nervous system are not under our control, there are two aspects that are under our control somewhat. One is the larynx, which is how we vocalize. And the other is the breathing process, the diaphragm and the lungs. So they happen automatically, but we also have some control over them. So we can begin to use and harness the little control that we have to begin to make a shift in the body so that it begins to release, the parasympathetic nervous system gets stimulated, and the stress response diminishes. So what I want to do for the rest of our time is to have a conversation, Erica, about the different ways that we can do this, the
Great.
different things that we can do.
Great. Yeah. And then you're going to lead us through some breath work as well.
Yeah. So at
Okay.
the end, we'll do some specific breathing techniques to help do this.
Right. And I should just mention too that after we're finished, that we'll share in the comments a link to some breath work that you have a recording of. So that will be
Yes.
great.
So we have a free 22-minute or so breathing class with one of our teachers, Karen Shovers, and she works extensively with this type of breathing. And so we're going to give you the link to that class that you can watch and do as many times as you want. It's a free YouTube offering.
Thank you, Chaya. Thank you.
Yeah, a pleasure. Thank you to Karen. So because the vagus nerve is in the face, one of the ways that you can stimulate it is by smiling.
What a beautiful thing, huh?
And I see everybody that I can see here is now has a sweet little smile on their face. So smiling helps to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, and it also lets the people you're with have their parasympathetic nervous system stimulated because they see that you are not being threatening. You are being socially friendly. So let's give everybody a smile. A wave.
And a wave.
So that's just like such a simple thing you can do to break the stress cycle. The next thing I think is really cool. It's humming. Because the vagus nerve controls your larynx, humming helps to soothe the stress response. So if you hum for 5 or 10 minutes, it will make a huge difference. And you can hum quietly. You can hum anything you want, although something soothing and relaxing is probably better than heavy metal humming. And it might be annoying to the people around you. Maybe you want to do it by yourself, but you could just sit quietly and hum to yourself. So that's another wonderful, simple way to break the stress cycle. So we've got smiling, humming, and then getting a massage. So either having someone massage you or giving yourself a massage, and particularly massaging the areas of the body where the vagus nerve goes. So it would mean very gently massaging the face or the chest or the belly. And I saw one person teaching somebody else how to take a very soft, big ball and roll it around on the belly and the chest and the neck. And that kind of stimulates and wakes up the vagus nerve and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So although you might not be comfortable during this time of COVID to go get a massage from someone, you could perhaps give yourself some part of a massage, some part of your body, just a very gentle movement, just waking up. And there are, plenty of YouTube videos if you wanted to look for how to use massage to tone the vagus nerve and stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. Getting a nice big bear hug, feeling safe in somebody's arms, having someone embrace you, hug you if you have someone in your house or who is COVID-free that you can have a hug from. And if there isn't, you can hug yourself, or you can hug your pet, hug your cat or your dog, or just embrace yourself. And that feeling of being embraced is very soothing to the nervous system. When we do yoga and we engage the muscles, we often talk about physically giving ourselves an embrace, about using our own muscles to gently tone and draw in. And that helps the body to feel that it is it is safe, it is embraced, it is held. It's kind of like the feeling you get when you put on an ace bandage. Or if you haven't tried this, this is nice. If you're lying down in bed and you put a pillow or a blanket over your belly, it just gives this very sweet sense of being soothed and the nervous system relaxes.
Oh, that's nice.
And then there is yoga and meditation. So my favorite, because that's what I teach and that's what I do. But yoga, because of the rhythmic way that we move and the very mindful way that we move, bringing ourselves into the present moment and often synchronizing breath with movement, it helps to create a sense of safety and stability in the body. And when the body feels stable, it feels safer. So any kind of a yoga practice can be very beneficial for breaking the stress loop. And in particular, things again that open up the parts of the body where the vagus nerve is. So parts that open up the belly, parts that open up the chest, the throat. So could be gentle back bends, could be even like a cat-cow movement where you're arching and rounding and arching and rounding and just setting up this pulsation in the body. Can be very, very beneficial. In particular, restorative yoga, which is a type of yoga where you prop your body on blankets or bolsters, and let the body just rest while you do some deep breathing, is extremely beneficial. And people often say, oh, I want to do yoga, I want to get my workout, and restorative yoga isn't a workout. This is true. However, if you go back to the whole premise of how stressed we all are and how much of the day we spend in a stressed sympathetic nervous system state, and how staying in that state affects so many different areas, causes so many symptoms, causes so much distress and dis-ease, this practice is priceless because it gives you a solid hour of going deeper and deeper and deeper into a physical relaxation and a mental relaxation. So I highly recommend restorative yoga. And even if you just do a few poses, 1 or 2 poses, that's fine. You don't have to do an hour. And if you're curious, tomorrow evening, Erica, I hope it's okay if I put in a plug.
Of course.
Tomorrow evening, we have a 90-minute restorative yoga class with Karen Shovers, who does the breathing video that we're going to give you the link to. And you can reserve for that and experience firsthand for yourself how nourishing restorative yoga can be.
It is. It's wonderful. And I can tell you that a lot of people feel they think they get more relaxed after a really hard workout, but I feel like a lot of people that come to me for because I help a lot of women with really letting go of difficult, stubborn weight, and people are over exercising. So a lot of women are over exercising when a lot of times that's really not what their body needs. But you're just so used to sweating, working hard. I don't know what that tower society has kind of built us up to, like, we have to feel like that in order to get a good workout to better ourselves. But I feel like your practice and your mindset is like completely turn that around. So you need to find a good balance, I feel, with that.
Yeah, and talk about balance. We're not advocating that we should eliminate the sympathetic nervous system, right? It's that we should have the ability to shift between being in a sympathetic state and being in a parasympathetic state. And right now we're mostly chronically in a sympathetic state. So, good, strong exercise, great. Restorative yoga, great. Let's find a balance so that we're serving our bodies and our minds and our guts and everything in a way that is sustainable and healthy. So the last technique. So let's just review. We talked about smiling, humming, massaging, feeling safe in someone's arms, hugging, pets, yourself, somebody else, yoga, meditation. And the last thing I wanted to focus, and there are many others, many others. So these are just a few, my few favorites. The last one is breathing. And it's, you say breathing, I breathe all the time. Breathing is just my natural state. It's what we all do 24/7 from day one to last day of life. We're all breathing. I just finished an interesting book called Breath by James Nestor. I have it right here. And he talks about how poorly we breathe. That yes, we're all breathing, but we don't do it very well. And we breathe in more than we need to. Just like sometimes we exercise more than we need to, we breathe more than we need to. And when he says breathe more than we need to, he means kind of rapid, shallow breaths. And what he advocates for is long, slow breaths in and out. Long, slow, steady breaths. And he talks about how the nerves that connect to the lungs are in two groups. The nerves that connect to the lower part of the lungs, the lower lobes of the lungs, connect into the parasympathetic relaxation nervous system. The nerves that are on the lobes of the upper lungs connect into the sympathetic stress nervous system. So think about it. If you're anxious or stressed, you're breathing in your chest rapidly, and it's sending messages to your brain, threat, there's something going on, and that makes you breathe faster and more rapidly and shallower. But when you breathe really deep, long, and slow, so that the diaphragm descends and the breath goes all the way into those lower lobes of the lungs, that stimulates the vagus nerve and the relaxation response. So that's something I just learned too that I thought was really interesting. So this is one of the things he talks about. He talks about how long an ideal breath is. An ideal breath is 5.5 seconds inhaling.
Wow.
And 5.5 seconds exhaling, so that in the course of a minute, you breathe 6 times. Most of them 20 times, just to give you a sense. So 5.5 seconds in and 5.5 seconds out. And I believe that there are apps that you can get to time that.
What about the pausing at the top and the bottom of the inhale and the exhale?
So he doesn't talk about pausing in terms of the ideal breath. So the ideal breath is just kind of like your natural breath that would be ideal if it were longer and slower. So it took 5.5 seconds. And then there are many breathing techniques, which include pausing and holding and lengthening and shortening different aspects of the breath. So that's just the ideal breath. So I tried it. I took out my stopwatch and I watched it, and I breathed in and I breathed out. And it's really long and it's really slow and it's really relaxing. And he says that it's the length of time it takes to do a rosary. And it's the length of time it takes to recite some of the most common mantras. And that perhaps that's why the ancient sages linked breath and mantra repetition to create this optimal breath length. So every time you inhale, your heart speeds up a little and your vagus nerve is suppressed. And every time you exhale, the heart slows down a little and the vagus nerve is stimulated. And this is the healthy pulsation in our bodies that's balanced. It's a balance rather than just always breathing in fast and rapid because we're feeling stressed. So in yoga, we have a number of different breathing techniques called pranayama, which are different ways that we work with the breath. One is the 3-part breath, the full yogic breath, where we get really quiet and we breathe in, dividing the body into 3 parts: the belly area from pubic bone to navel, the rib cage area from navel to sternum, and then the chest from sternum to throat. And we breathe in very quietly and mindfully first into the belly area, and then we continue into the rib cage area, and then we continue into the chest area. And then you exhale in the opposite order, first the chest, then the ribs, and then the belly. So you fill up like a wave with breath, and you empty like a wave with breath. And it allows the diaphragm to move freely. The internal organs get a massage. The vagus nerve is stimulated, and the body goes into a rest and digest state with that kind of breath. There are other breathings that, as Erica mentioned, invite a pause, a holding. So you can pause either at the top of the inhale or the bottom of the exhale. What do you think happens when you pause at the top of the inhale?
Activates it.
It activates it. So you may notice that you're stressing or you're doing something and you hold your breath in.
Yeah. I find myself doing that. Mm-hmm.
I look around in a yoga class when we actually have people in the class, and you can see people working hard and holding their breath. So the holding at the bottom of the exhalation more stimulates the relaxation response. Just like when you take a long sigh and then you just let it pause. And there are ways to, breathe in more through one nostril, breathe out more through the other nostril, but stimulate the 2 different systems. So it's a whole science. We don't have time for it tonight. But what I thought we could do is ratio breathing, which is breathing that's done to a count, where we create balance by counting in, say, 4 as you breathe in, 4 as you breathe out. And then we lengthen the exhalation. And now you know why. So 4 as you breathe in, maybe 6 as you breathe out. And then maybe we add a little pause at the end of the exhalation. And so little by little, we begin to both lengthen the breath more towards that 5.5 second, although no one's timing us tonight. But we begin to lengthen the breath, and we give more emphasis to the exhalation and the holding at the end of the exhalation to really bring the body down into that relaxation response. So if you'd like, we could do some of that. Erica, is there anything else we should be saying?
That'd be great. Yeah. So do you want to finish off with some breath work? I just wanted to make sure that you just let everybody know any ways to get in if anyone's going to drop off before we start that. I just wanted to make sure that you let everybody know how to get in touch with you, and anything else you wanted to let our listeners know about your studio and your classes, stuff like that.
Sure.
We can put it in the comments later. We don't have to do it right this second.
Okay,
But we'll
so
be
I'm
doing
just
that.
dropping the website for my yoga studio into the chat. It's shreeyoga.com. And my email is chaya@shreeyoga.com. And we have an extensive website. We have yoga classes online, virtually every day. We have outdoor yoga classes if you'd rather be in person. The studio is now open for a few indoor yoga classes as well. And we also have a library, a virtual content library, which is a membership you can sign up for that has a number of different types of practice. So if you want to do a rigorous practice, if you want to do a really restful practice, if you want to just do a meditation practice, if you want to do more breathing practices with Karen, you get a membership to the library. It's month by month, and you can view, there's about 100 videos on there. A lot of them are Zoom recorded classes, but some of them are also content that we created just for the library. So that's another way that you can, on your own time, if getting to a class isn't working for you because you're making pots or whatever you're doing, then you can consider that as an option. And the information for that is on the website. When we're done, we'll put in the comments the link to the free breathing video. So you'll be able to find it on Erica's Facebook page.
Yeah. You know what? I'll put it in here too. I'll find it and I'll put it in here before we sign off on Zoom in case people aren't on Facebook. I didn't think about that. So I'll make sure that we do that.
Great.
Oh, I didn't know that we were all on Facebook here. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much. And for people that are not familiar, obviously we have a lot of your followers here. You know, Chaya, your studio and you and your instructors have been around for so long, and you're really well known and well respected in the area. And
thank you.
I mean, thank goodness now that even like some of our viewers are in different states, they have access now to your library because, you know, you're really, gosh, really experienced and really, our community here is really lucky to have you, but, you know, we have your library available too. So that's really, really great. So
thanks, Erica. It's a
so
pleasure
thank you too for, oh yeah,
to
thanks
work with you too.
Yeah. We'll put your free YouTube video into the comments. And also I made up that little infographic about the 8 reasons why your body benefits from being in a parasympathetic state. So if anybody wants that, just drop your email in the chat and I will be sure to send that over to you as well. So.
Okay.
So great. We're going to do some breath work. That's going to be awesome.
All right. So you can be sitting wherever you're sitting, but do sit up tall and support yourself so that your lungs and your whole upper body is open and free, and things will be able to move easily and comfortably. So if you're sitting in a chair, as I think most of us are, put the feet flat on the floor, uncross your legs. And then leaning over to your right, draw the left sit bone a little bit out to the side, and then lean over to the other side and draw the other sit bone out. So you have a really broad, steady seat. And then close your eyes. We're going to do an assessment so that we do kind of a scan before and a scan after so that you can compare if there is any difference in before and after. So as you close your eyes, feel your body and notice if or where you're holding stress. Look for the places that you know you chronically hold stress. And then look again at places maybe you haven't checked into where you might be holding stress as well. Check your jaw, your tongue, the space between your eyebrows, your hands. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really stressed, 1 being a little stressed, hardly at all, assign a number for your current level of stress. Now bring your awareness to your breathing. If at all possible, breathe through your nose. Let the teeth just gently touch and the tongue sit comfortably behind the upper teeth on the palate. And feel the breath moving through the nostrils. And notice your breath. Notice if it feels even and balanced, or if the inhale or the exhale might be dominant. And just stopping to pay attention both gives you information, but also in bringing that awareness to your breath, it automatically begins to shift out of stress into rest. And now silently to yourself, add a count. We're going to count to 6 for the inhale and count to 6 for the exhale. So as though you had a metronome going, there's just this rhythmic count in your head. And you count 6, inhale at whatever speed works for you, and 6, exhale, so that you're making sure that the inhale and the exhale are balanced and even. Do this for a few breaths. Just finding your rhythm and finding your ease. It shouldn't feel like an effort. It shouldn't be stressful. So if your count is too long or it's too fast, adjust it so that you have a comfortable rhythm. The next time you begin to exhale, make it to the count of 8. So we're just increasing the length of the exhalation a little bit. You're inhaling to 6 and exhaling to 8. Rhythmic and steady and smooth. Like pouring oil from one container to another. And we're going to add a pause in at the end of the exhalation to the count of 2. Inhale 6, exhale 8. Hold the breath out for 2. Inhale 6, exhale 8, and hold the breath out for 2. So set up this pattern for yourself at your own pace with that internal metronome. And as you're making these longer exhalations and adding in the pause, notice how you feel. Notice how the body feels. Notice if there's a quiet. Now continue with this count. Inhale 6, exhale 8, hold out 2. Or if you feel like you can hold it out longer, hold it out for 4. But if that creates any kind of stress, go back to the 2. So you inhale 6, exhale 8, and hold the breath out for either 2 or 4. Do that for 2 more rounds. And when you finish that last holding out, return to the 6-6 count. It's bringing ourselves back to balance. No holding. 6 as you breathe in, 6 as you breathe out. Take one more round. And when you finish the last exhalation, let go of the counting and let the breath move at its own natural rhythm. And then reassess. Check back into those places where you felt you were holding stress in your body. And back to that scale of 1 to 10, assigning a stress level for right now. And noticing if there is a change or not. Just observing and being present. Gently open your eyes. I hope that between the information I gave you and Erica gave you, and the different tips and techniques, that you feel empowered to manage your own stress. Like Erica said, we can't manage the stressors that are around us. We can't manage how the presidential debate goes tonight, but we can manage how we respond and how we react. And we can do 5.5 second breaths in and 5.5 second breaths out throughout the debate. Or anytime you feel stressed.
Let me just unmute people now.
I think they have to unmute themselves.
Okay. Yeah, all right. You can unmute me. Yeah, if you guys want to unmute them. So thank you so much. Oh, that was great.
Thank you for the opportunity
Thank
to
you.
share and to partner with you, Erica. It's an honor and a privilege.
Oh gosh, the honor and the privilege is all mine. That's what I've been telling people. I'm so honored to have you join me today and to hear all of your wonderful pearls and advice. It was great. It was really wonderful. And I hope everyone was able to take home something really, really valuable and be able to work that into your daily practice somehow. Little smiles, the hums. Yeah, so that's great.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Chaya.
Thanks, Andrea. Good to see you.
You too.
All right, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining us live and taking time out of your busy schedules. And we'll see you next time. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.